Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Donkey Projections. My name is Lucas, and I'm Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be talking about Trump's approval rating. Let's just say it's not good. Has he made a couple of gains these past few days? Yes, but in general, it has not been good. And we'll be discussing that this episode. And with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, let's take a look at his approval rating now. Looking at this, the only point where his approval was higher than his disapproval was when he first walked into office, day 4. By the time you get to like day day 10, his day 14, his approval rating is already tied, and then from there he got extremely disapproved of. Let's look at this. Let's look at the recent approval, because that's really what does matter at the end of the day. What happens like right before the election? We did see a small gain in approval rating for Trump. This was like during coronavirus. When was this? March 31st. Yeah, this was when coronavirus was first like starting, and it didn't feel too like social distancing didn't really exist yet. Nor did we have so much remote learning, remote working from home. This was all before that. But then the crisis gets really bad, and we see his
Mhm.
approval rating completely drop.
And also another pattern that exists, every time during a time of crisis in the beginning, where the people do not know how bad it's going to be. The approval rating of the person in power always spikes. Let's take a look at Bush in 9/11. During that
Right.
time, his approval rating went up. You see that
Why?
huge spike, yes, and in other times of crises, approval ratings did go up. So this was why this happened to Donald Trump, because people didn't know how bad the coronavirus was going to be. Just a few cases, the people were reassured, they were confident at first that the administration was going to handle the issue. But then once it got out of hand, his approval rating got out of hand too, or disapproval rating, I should say.
Exactly. And his people do not view his handling of coronavirus good at all. They think it's terrible. And genuinely, his approval rating actually wasn't too bad. 42.7, um, just because of coronavirus. Then, in addition to coronavirus happening, then you had the killing of George Floyd, which people also view Trump handled extremely badly. And we see a complete drop in his approval rating. By the time we get to July, early July, his approval rating is already down to like 40%.
And not
Um,
only Yes, and sorry. And not only did these events of police brutality and shootings hurt Donald Trump, but his response to them was also the Democrats really did not like how he responded. He focused more on the riots, and during the RNC, for example, Mike Pence's speech, he did address more of the violence and the rioting that was going on, and not really the brutality, and that really infuriated the Democrats as well, which is also contributing to his disapproval.
right, I completely agree with you on what you're saying there. Although we did see a little bit of an increase in his approval rating in the past few days, I'm not 100% sure why, but it's definitely interesting to see that happening. So you're probably wondering then, why is his approval rating so high for a president that, like, really most people don't like? And the reason for that is because he has a very, very strong base. You won't see a lot of people who are currently a staunch Trump ally flipping over and voting for Biden this time. He's created a super, super strong base that no candidate has ever had before, ever. Um, so let's actually compare to past presidents here, because President Trump's approval rating is notoriously steady. It's always been this low, and it has been steady that way. We have not seen his net approval cross the we didn't see his net approval higher than his disapproval ever, except for the beginning. It's very, very low. Let's take a look at comparing to other presidents now. Barack Obama was pretty popular. He wasn't the most popular president, but he was definitely not a very unpopular president. Currently, he would be 8 points above Trump. I'm sorry, 8 points. I can't do math today. 6 points above Trump. George W. Bush, first term, I guess he was relatively liked. By the time he got to the second term, you can see his approval rating numbers going down to like 20%. The reason why you won't see that with Trump is because Trump is really that liked by his base.
Yeah, a few points regarding the approval, and I'll take Bush for example. I read an interesting article about George W. Bush. People really didn't like Bush towards the end of his campaign. His disapproval was not good. And I saw an interesting article, as I said, which talked about how comparing to Donald Trump, some people think that Bush is in the good light compared to Donald Trump. And also, I noticed an interesting pattern as to approval ratings. Each president that did win had towards the election had an approval rating of around 50%. For example, as right after the Democratic convention, Obama's approval rating was at 53, and that was consistent all the way until the end of election. Right now, Donald Trump is right now 8 points away from 50. Am I correct? What is his approval rating right now?
Yep, 42.
Yep, he's 8 points away from the approval rating of 50, which has usually been the number that candidates had that, those candidates had won the election. Donald Trump is not at that approval number yet. So he really has to, up it up and campaign really hard and really sell out to, more undecided voters, because his Trump base, his very Republican base, he knows he is reinforced. He has to focus on the more independent or swing voters, and maybe then his approval rating could rise and he could win.
Right, but genuinely this time, I think that a lot of the swing voters and the independent voters are going to split for Biden this time instead of Hillary. We'll actually talk about it a little bit later. I do want to mention a point here in that a lot of people are voting against Trump when they're voting for Biden. You won't see a lot of people like voting for Biden because they're pro-Biden. I mean, there is a decent portion of people who are, but most people supporting Biden are anti-Trump. And different from 2016 is you won't see an anti-Biden voter like that often. A lot of people who in 2016 who supported Hillary only supported Hillary because they were anti-Trump, and a lot of people who supported Trump, at least some of them, voted for him because they were anti-Hillary. That's why you saw so many undecided numbers going into the election, because it was two very unpopular candidates. I do want to also add that his approval rating is actually higher than both George H.W. Bush and Jimmy Carter, where if you remember, Jimmy Carter and George H.W. Bush were not reelected. So that's interesting to keep note, because before his approval rating was lower than both. But we can see if anything will change in the future. Anyways, let's talk about why this is not 2016. Let's look at Biden's favorability. This is a little bit outdated. I'll show you a new article from CNN after. His approval rating is, his net approval is negative 1.6. That is unheard of in politics, that your disapproval is that low. And according to other sources we have, Biden's approval rating actually is in the positive right now. And that's really unheard of. You're going to never see that high of a net approval or net disapproval in that case. Let's look at Hillary Clinton. She was at negative 12
Negative
by
12
election day.
according to the RCP average. Yeah, so very close to zero is very, unheard of and very good for Joe Biden.
Right. Hillary Clinton was very unpopular as a senator too. I guess that just carried on while she was in the on the campaign trail as well. According to an article from CNN, actually, they have some new polling stuff here regarding his favorability rating, and it was in the positive actually. Apparently climbed up from negative 2 points to 3 points among registered voters. Again, that's really unheard of. You never see a candidate with such a in a either such a low disapproval or such a in the positive on their approval. And that just goes to show that I know we get a lot of comments saying, oh, Hillary was such a better candidate than Biden. And in the most neutral way possible, according to this data, no, she's not. Clearly, Biden is a lot more liked by the American people. Well, I don't want to say American people, but he's a lot more liked by the Democratic Party than Hillary Clinton was. The only people where we're seeing people saying, oh, Biden's the lesser of two evils, the only people we see saying that are the progressives. The Democratic Party as a whole, however, does approve of Joe Biden. In 2016, we saw a lot of more people, like the Democrats, saying that, oh, Biden's the lesser of two evils. We're not seeing that with Joe Biden as much at all. And that is why this election is simply not 2016, and why Trump's approval rating could really bite him in the back. But I do want to talk a little bit about his approval rating going up a little bit. We did see some articles that his approval rating has been going up slightly in some of the swing states. That's something we got to take a look at. But as a whole, his approval rating is still pretty bad. Let's look at the most recent polls. Ramsden reports C+. This often leans towards the president. The president often cites this because it does always show him up the most. Look at this. Let's see. So 46.52. What is that? Is that a net 8? I think that is a net. No, sorry, net 6. Adjusted, it's a, I think that's a net, is that
12.
net 12? Yeah. So clearly there is some bias with Ramsden. YouGov, 40 to 54. Yeah, these numbers do look about matching what we did see up here. But anyways, we'll continue tomorrow's approval rating, but right now it is not looking good at all.
I just wanted to add one more point. We'll have to see if the Republican convention, just like in other conventions, will give the candidate a boost in approval. But we'll have to see. This is definitely a different convention. Not as much public and not as much cheering and, huge parties and crowds. But we'll have to see how much the convention did help or did not help Donald Trump.
Right, and that's completely correct, because in the past we have seen candidates getting convention bumps. We don't know if we'll see that this year that much. And to be quite honest, the RNC has not been the best. So I don't think that neither candidate will get too much of a convention bump at all. And with that being said, that's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you like our content, please hit subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode tomorrow.
Yeah.